Good evening, everyone. Buenos noches, bienvenido. Or as we say in Tagalog, I'm half Filipino, mabuhay, or magandang gabi. So my name is Christy Aletto, and I am an anchor with Action News. I know I am not the person that you thought you were going to see this evening. The beautiful Aliana Gomez could not be here, so I found out at 3 o'clock that I was going to tap in for her. And I'm very excited to be here celebrating the work of Esperanza and the work that they do every day to uplift our Latino neighbors and our friends. And while I'm not part of the Latino community myself, like as I mentioned, I am half Filipino, I do know a thing or two about con sabor, which by full disclosure, I just learned that, just learned how to say that. But one of the things that I've always admired about the people that work here at Esperanza is that they are bilingual. I mean, being able to speak, communicate, meet the people that they are serving where they are is so crucial. Sadly, hablo solo inglés. I'm a little basic in that. But I do have 2 little girls, and I've been trying to instill in them that celebrating your culture, whether that's going to Tagalog school every weekend, they also go to Spanish school on Saturdays. It's so important because that is your superpower. That is how you communicate, present yourself to the world, and you can walk in so many different rooms and have this superpower with different types of people. And while I'm not tucking them in this evening, I know that one of the things that I always say to them before they go to sleep is, sueño con los angelitos. And I know that they're gonna say that back to my husband, and he's gonna look at them blankly and have no idea what they're saying. But I think that's so important. But enough about me. I am your host again. I'm with Channel 6. And I'm so excited to be joining you all with Celebrating Hope for Immigrants Rooted in Resilience. It is an honor to be your host this evening. Thank you. You guys are fun. Thanks for that. So there are students, parents, teachers, workers that we are celebrating to raise support for in our community that make up the fabric of our society. Immigrants are the backbone of not just our communities, but our economy, especially here in Philadelphia. So much has changed in the last year for immigrants in our communities, and today we have an opportunity to hear about EILS's transformative work here in North Philadelphia, including the powerful mobilizing of volunteers, board members, staff, concerned citizens, and supporters that continue to make the hope strong for these individuals. Together, we are celebrating 2 incredible honorees, Judy Bernstein-Baker and Michael Malvey, who I had the honor of speaking with ahead of time, and I also learned that he is the money man for all of this. So it takes each person doing their part to ensure the immigrant families can weather the challenges of today with resilience. So we are ready to begin, and to get us started, I'd like to invite the chair of the EILS Board of Directors, Gonzalo Cornejo, to share a few brief remarks.
Thank you very much, Christy, and thanks for being here with 2 hours of advance notice. Anyway, I've been working with Esperanza Immigration Legal Services Board for about 6 years now. And this is my first year as chairman of the board. It means so much for me and for the organization to see so many friends and so many people so committed to our mission. And I'm happy to report that the event was completely sold out, and some people were trying to get tickets and they couldn't because it was sold out. It's a fantastic achievement. I am an immigrant myself from Peru, and my wife's family also found refuge in the US, escaping the Armenian genocide of 1915. And my Peruvian son is starting a new life in New York in July as a medical resident. So This means a lot to me. It would be redundant to repeat to this crowd the enormous social, economic, and cultural impact and benefits of immigration. It is a duty and an honor for me to ensure that the resources of EILS are available to others to achieve the same opportunities that I myself personally had and my family. EILS is truly a treasure, and it is a privilege to share it with you tonight. We have a wonderful evening planned for you. None of this would be possible without our leading ray of light sponsors, Galfenberger and Philadelphia-based immigration law firm Paladino Isbel Casasa, of which one of the partners is member of our board. And Torch of Liberty sponsor McKenna Snyder LLC. Thank you for showing that the EILS and the immigrants we serve matter, and for your faithful support over the years. Mike McGurrin and Ricky Palladino, would each of you join me to say a few words? Yes, please.
Hi, everybody. I am Mike McGurn, and we're not going to talk at the same time. I've had the pleasure of working with Mike Melvey for over 20 years. He's a partner of our law firm, and we at Gelfenberger have been dedicated to representing injured workers and personal injury and workers' compensation since 1947. Mike and I did a training yesterday for a bunch of union folks, and I had to clarify to them that despite how we look, we have not been there since 1947. We have not been practicing law for 80 years individually, or even together, but we're close. I would just like to take this opportunity. Mike, by the way, is an excellent lawyer. He's very, very dedicated to his clients. And one of the things I say about Mike is he always puts the clients first. It's never about Mike. He doesn't want the accolades, even though he's getting them tonight. And I have seen him work tirelessly on behalf of his clients. And I'm sure he has put the same type of energy and dedication to their work with EILS. And I just, on behalf of Gelfenberger, and we have a table full of attorneys over here, want to thank you all for the work that you do for this community. You give a voice to a very often underrepresented community, and we thank you very much for that, and keep up the good work.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ricky Palladino, and I'm an immigration lawyer in Philadelphia, and I'm honored tonight to, first of all, speak on behalf of my law firm, Palladino, Isbel, and Casasa, and also to sponsor Esperanza, which is just such a wonderful organization. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do at our law firm. We're about 50 people altogether, 50 professionals. Our staff speaks 14 different languages, and we do nothing but immigration law. And thank you. And we are very much on the front lines of this humanitarian crisis that's happening in our country right now. And I can tell you that it feels really good to be in a room with a bunch of other people that are also on the front lines. So thank you to all of you for being on the right side of history. When I put my girls, my two daughters, to bed at night, I tell them all the time when they're asking me why I worked so late and why I had to work on the weekends that what we're doing is on the right side of history, and I think all of you here are on the right side of history as well. So enough about the law firm, just two quick notes about our honorees tonight. The first is Mike Malvey. I met Mike for the first time here at an event approximately 3 years ago that honored our very own retired Judge Honeyman. And Mike was the MC, and I sat in my seat, and I did nothing but donate to the cause because Mike was so good. And I remember going home and telling my wife, I saw a guy tonight that was the best MC I've ever seen. And I've never got a chance to see Mike in the courtroom, but if you're half as good of a lawyer in the courtroom as you were at that event here 3 years ago, I can imagine that you are a wonderful and tremendous advocate for your client. And speaking of wonderful and tremendous advocates, Judy Bernstein Baker, who has been a staple in the immigration community, and you talk about being on the front lines. My goodness, on the front lines for as many years as I can remember. How many years in total, Judy? 30. Okay, we'll say 30 years. I've been in the immigration game for about 25 years, and as long as I can remember, Judy's been on the front line, and she's still on the front line right now. So let's all of us collectively remember, number one, that we're on the right side of history, and let's take a step out of Judy's book and remember that fighting for what's right and being on the right side, it never ends, it never dies in you, right? And it should never die in any of us. So let's keep up the good work, and it's good to be with all of you tonight, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ricky. I'd also like to thank the many Beacon of Hope sponsors we have: Berger, Montague, Ball Solutions, Fager, Dringer, Beadle and Reith, Hogan Lovells, Holland and Knight, Independence Foundation, Lagon Care, Lisa Clark and David Haas, our own Peter Hardy and Nina Rivera, Rains and Lawn and Villanova University, our presenting sponsors, CABC News Media, PWP and Impacto Media, and all our supporting sponsors. I also want to thank my guests, Father George Burr and Dan and Ann Stobb, who are helping with our fundraising efforts, and thanks to my board, with including the 4 incoming members, starting in July 1st, who generously give their time and their volunteering and their efforts on behalf of the mission of EILS. I also want to recognize Charlie Ellinson, Executive Director of the Office of Immigration Affairs of the City of Philadelphia, who is in the room with us this evening. And thanks to all of you for being here and for supporting our cause. And now it's a pleasure for me to invite Walter Tolliver, Executive Vice President and Legal Counsel of EILS parent agency Esperanza, and EILS board member, together with Anno Thomas, Executive Director, to share a little bit more about EILS beginnings and what it makes it so special. Thank you.
Thanks, Gonzalo. I get to wear 2 hats today. I get on behalf of Esperanza and as a proud board member of EILS. My primary job tonight is just to say welcome and thank you for being here. But I also have to take this opportunity to share and say a few words about the times that we're living in and why it means so much that EILS is here to serve. Esperanza created EILS in 2009. After clergy from the United States spent years advocating for comprehensive immigration reform on Capitol Hill. What you see today is rooted in that legacy. At that time, Esperanza ramped up Know Your Rights workshops in Hazleton and other cities throughout Pennsylvania, called for people to recognize that the immigrant is their neighbor, their brother, or their sister, and spoke against separation of families. Even as Esperanza did that, there was still a great need right here in this neighborhood in North Philadelphia for legal services. There was misinformation being disseminated, and immigrants were being taken advantage of by unlicensed notarios. EILS was created in response to that need. In the last year alone, the effects of policy changes have hit very close to home for us. We've seen young people in our charter schools and individuals that work and live along our business corridors face deportation following court hearings, and more. At Esperanza, we talk extensively about building an opportunity community, a place where anyone can access economic mobility and a good quality of life, including immigrants. Right here on this campus, EILS clients and their families can access housing and workforce services, a college, the arts, and more. To preserve it, we need to build resilience as a community. The demand is only going to continue to grow, but with your support, we can ensure that this hope remains available. Thank you, and again, welcome.
Thank you so much, Walter. Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. Whether you're here for the first time today or you are a long-term supporter, we are so glad that you are in the room with us today. When my family came here 35 plus years ago, I don't think that we would have ever imagined that we will be at the point that we are today. These past many months, we have navigated a rapidly changing legal landscape, the blatant violation of immigrant human rights and the rule of law, and communities thrown into incredible uncertainty. This is something that lives in our bodies. I'm going to ask you all to, if you've been here before, you know I like to do a participatory piece, so I'm going to ask you guys to close your eyes. Bear with me, this is worth it. Okay, first, how do you feel when you think about how our immigrant neighbors are being treated? How they've been treated for the past year plus? Where do you feel it in your body? For me, I feel it lodged in my chest, in my stomach, in my throat. I feel it, and it sits there when I don't see the clients in the room who have joined us every year, because even for those who are naturalized, the fear and uncertainty of this moment means that they cannot share their story. It sits there with every denial, every Board of Immigration Appeal decision, every arrest, every community member jailed, every family torn apart, every immigrant that decides that returning to the mouth of the shark is safer than staying here. So, and I see you have your eyes closed still, okay. When I feel this way, and when I feel it in my body, I ground myself. I plant my feet on the ground. Put your 2 feet on the ground. I invite you all to do so. Press your feet flat against the floor. Can you feel the texture against the bottom? Support this beneath your feet. Soften your knees and let your shoulders drop. Notice how this feels in your body. Does it feel a little bit more grounded? Do you feel a little bit more rooted? When I do this, I can see that our clients' voices are here. It is here in the poetry I hope you have seen, written, the calaveras, which are a Mexican cultural form of writing that defy the threats and fear that knocks at our door. They come through our board member, Nodi, who is with us, who is a change agent and an activist whose story was featured last year and whose own journey has now led him to join us at the helm of this organization. Nodi, we're so grateful to have you with us. So, when we open our eyes and think about our roots, right? Think about how EILS is firmly planted. How have we remained rooted as the ground continually shifts beneath us? Well, we have grown roots both deep and wide. Since the beginning of this year, EILS has mobilized our entire network, including volunteers from the American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA, attorneys across law firms, many of whom are in the room tonight, students from local law schools, undergraduate, and even high schools, also in the room, and individuals with language skills who do everything we can to ensure that generations are not torn apart. We launched legal screening workshops to support individuals to identify pathways to status. We collaborated with other legal service agencies with Know Your Rights and family safety and planning workshops to keep both community members and immigrant serving partners informed about the changes affecting immigrant communities at breakneck speed. We have built partnerships across the city and beyond with community-based organizations, schools, city departments, immigration legal services providers to ensure that we are providing the maximum shelter, shade, and nourishment for our communities. I could go on, I will not, right? To save you all. What does it mean that our work is rooted in resilience? It means that we stand firm. We stand firm, anchored, so that through our transformative work, families can access the benefits of citizenship, the right to vote, and more. Empowerment through information about what their rights are and how to best prepare. And it means growth despite hostile conditions, as through the support of some incredibly generous donors, we are, as an institution, at the precipice of hiring a staff attorney for the first time in our 17-year history to show that what is rooted and nurtured will always bear fruit, fruit that enriches all around it. By being with us here today, you are now a part of us, part of this complex system that anchors and nourishes us. We invite you to continue to build those roots with us beyond just today so that we can continue to grow alongside our beloved immigrant communities. And even if you don't want to, we have your contact information. So, thank you. Now, yes, so we have the next portion here, which is going to be our incredible performance. I'll invite Christy back up to introduce it.
Yeah, let's have another applause for Anu. That was awesome. Well, speaking of honoring EILS clients, there are some talented artists right here in Philadelphia who are giving expression to the struggles and also the dreams of those who serve, or that we are serving. So tonight, we have with us an award-winning Philadelphia poet, performer, and cultural curator whose work centers on humanity, memory, justice, and connection. And as the founder of Voices in Power, Luis Marrero has built a globally recognized platform that brings people together through poetry, storytelling, and live arts experiences. Intimate and impactful, Luis creates work that invites reflection and lived experience and reminds audiences the power of voice, community, and belonging. And Luis, we are so honored that you are here with us to share this custom piece this evening.
I thought I was a little bit taller than that. You all look beautiful. Thank you for being in this space. Thank you for inviting me to share poetry. I'm always honored when poetry can be in rooms like this. I believe in the power of poetry and the power of language and communication, and expressing that maybe a little bit differently than our speakers and other ways that we'll hear things throughout the night. I'm going to talk a lot in my poem, so I'm going to stop talking now and do that. But I just wanted to thank you for listening. I've learned there are people who are asked to prove they belong in places their hands already know by memory. I've seen hands learn the shape of a place and their heart never get treated with care. Hands washing yesterday off counters and carrying boxes and tying children's shoes in the same dark and quiet morning. Hands that make everything easier for people who still make belonging feel complicated. Somebody's mother leaves before the sun makes a witness out of the window. Hair tied back and keys held quiet, and a kiss placed soft enough on a child's forehead that the question stays asleep a little longer, because children know when goodbye feels like work, and sometimes love leaves early just to keep the lights from learning how close they are to leaving too. Somebody's father has a name people pronounce with patience missing. Not because it's difficult to say, but because some people hear a name from somewhere else and treat effort like a favor. So he lets them get close enough to feel comfortable and wrong enough to remind him that some people know what to do with his hands before they know how to honor his humanity. I know kids who learned English and fear in the same year. Kids who can read their parents' faces before they can read the letter on the table. Kids who stood beside their mothers at counters and made their little voice sound official, because some people listen faster when innocence speaks without an accent. I hate that a child could become the mouth of a house before they can become themselves. how they can carry adult panic in a backpack next to homework and leftover lunch, and every question they learn to swallow because the grown-ups are already full of worry and nobody wanted the baby to carry more even while the baby was already carrying the translation. This is not about politics. Politics is what people call pain when they want distance from it. This is about a woman cleaning an office she may never be invited to sit inside. A man building a wall and then being asked which side he belongs on. A grandfather with work in his knees and prayer in his palms, repairing everybody's house while nobody asks what in him still needs fixing. A grandmother who saves plastic bags inside plastic bags because waste has a language when you've been so close to nothing to remember its voice. This is about the student smiling through roll call while choosing which version of their name will cost them the least attention today. People love a story where struggle turns beautiful by the end of it. With a child graduating and a mother crying and a father proud and quiet with a flag somewhere in the background covering more than it carries, but some survival should not have to become scenery before anybody believes it was heavy. Some people did not come here chasing dreams. Some people came because every door behind them closed at the same time. Hunger closed one, and violence closed one, and men with guns closed one, and men in suits closed one, and after a while, leaving started looking less like hope and more like the only honest option. But still, they built something soft, built kitchens warm enough to forgive the day, built children who can dream in 2 languages, built businesses out of sleepless nights, built laughter even with fear so close it can hear it. So when we talk about help, I hope we mean more than the applause after the sad part. I hope we mean seeing people before their pain becomes presentable. I hope we understand that dignity should not depend on how well someone can communicate their wound, because what good is power if it can sit this close to need and still leave unchanged? I hope one day the question isn't why are you here, but who made you feel you had to ask? Because not everyone is looking for a handout. Some people are looking for the world to stop acting surprised when the people holding it together finally ask to be held too. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis, for that incredible performance. You have given words to emotions that are so hard to express, and your imagery grounds us. Thank you. Okay, so tonight we are recognizing 2 individuals who have transformed the lives of countless immigrants in our region. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first honoree, Judy Bernstein Baker. You can totally come stand with me. I have a long bio to read, my friend. Congratulations. Judy is a legendary immigration attorney, nonprofit leader, lifelong advocate, whose career has spanned more than 5 decades of public service. She has left a mark on many leaders along the way, myself included. Judy leads with kindness and clarity and was instrumental during our history when she was at Highest, Pennsylvania, in making room for EILS in 2009, 17 years ago, to join the network of vital providers here in this region. Inspired by her own mother's immigrant experience and early involvement in labor and civil rights activism, Judy understands the value of social services, organizing, and law to address critical issues, including housing and child advocacy, and of course, immigrant rights. In 1990, she became the founding director of the University of Pennsylvania's Law School's Public Service Program, helping to establish one of the nation's first mandatory public service requirements for law students. From 1999 to 2016, Judy served as the executive director of HIAS Pennsylvania, where she expanded immigration legal services, refugee resettlement, and citizenship programs, serving thousands annually. Do you think Judy has slowed down? Today, Judy remains as engaged as ever with robust pro bono work and spearheading advocacy efforts led through the Northwest Immigration Network and WIN. She also co-authored Understanding Immigration Law and Practice, a widely used educational resource for immigration attorneys and legal programs, equipping so many more to pick up the tasks at hand and join the movement in support of immigrants. How much more time do you guys have? No, I'm stopping here. Judy, for your many accomplishments, but most importantly, your nurture and care for immigrants, I am so proud to award you with the 2026 Civic Impact Award. We'll take a photo. So proud. Okay, now I see the mic. Yes.
No, thank you so much for this honor. I would like to say my husband turned 80 today.
MashaAllah.
And this is his birthday cake, which I bought at a bakery in the great neighborhood in Northwest Philadelphia.
Night kitchen.
The Night Kitchen. We all contribute the way we can. I'd like to acknowledge Reverend Cortez, who has built this amazing institution of opportunity in the heart of the Latino community. And of course, to Anu, who's raised Esperanza Immigration Legal Services to a whole new level. Congratulations to my co-honoree, Michael Malvey, who regaled us at many of these celebrations with dad jokes while we contributed through phone texts. I want to thank my husband, Carl, who has put up with my hectic schedule as I work with others to protect and defend our immigrant neighbors. Now, I want to also notice there are a lot of former awardees in the audience. Will you stand up, please, all the former awardees that are in the audience? And there are many people in the audience, attorneys who've taken pro bono cases. If you've taken a pro bono case, would you please stand up?
Come to a clinic. Done the work. Yes.
You know, I'm noticing if you don't stand up because I have a case for you. Many years ago, my aunt visited me from California, and I took her on the Circle Line tour, which is a boat trip around Manhattan Island. When she saw the Statue of Liberty, she broke down in tears. Tears of remembering, tears of joy, and yes, tears of hope. She and my mother, upon entering New York Harbor after an arduous journey from Poland, knew what that statue symbolized to them. Freedom of religion, along with opportunity. In Poland, my family lived in a dorp, which is even smaller than a shtetl, which is a small village. It's kind of like what you would say, pequeña aldea. in Spanish. They went to bed hungry every night and faced violent attacks only because they were Jewish. In fact, in an act of anti-Semitism, my mother witnessed Polish Cossacks rip off her grandfather's beard, and he eventually died. But the family was able to enter the U.S. in about 1921, right before the worst quotas of 1924. And I would not exist if it wasn't for the courage of that family to take the journey. And so it is today, with new groups of immigrants. Now, as it says on my poster, I've thought about this a lot. There's one thing I've learned, both in my professional and personal life. We all want the same things. It's as simple as that: a good education for our children, opportunities, mobility, health care. Thank you, Dr. Ludmir, who's probably in the office somewhere, who's providing that. Thank you, Temple. I've also learned there are two kinds of people in our society. The first, and this includes wealthy people, but also sometimes an oppressed group of people who say, I only care about myself, members of my own tribe, my religion. But then there are others, including those who've suffered, who believe horrible things happen to me and my friends, my family, and they should never happen to anyone else. Unfortunately, the Me First crowd seems to be in power today. But the counter to that are groups like EILS, and of course my former organization, Highest PA, and all of you. And of course my friends and women warriors from Northwest Philadelphia, who organize housing to take in asylum seekers quietly, effectively, and provide all kinds of support. We have control of what we can do. There are many ways to resist. And it's critical now, more than ever, that organizations work together to form an impenetrable force of hope and justice. And EILS is one of the great collaborators. Let me give you an example. Last year, we held Citizenship Day in Chester County, where pro bono attorneys provided free assistance in completing the citizenship application, which incidentally is about 21 pages long. But we lacked volunteers who were willing to provide ongoing representation. And applying for citizenship was getting riskier and more complicated. EILS stepped up. They accepted close to 40 cases at one time and used their expertise to make sure in these times of heightened scrutiny that each person received individual representation. And they still have those cases because the backlog at USCIS is terrible, and it's just now that these applications, which we filed in September, are getting interviewed. At any rate, subject for another day. So thank you for this honor. I look forward to watching the many new accomplishments and the new attorneys here at EILS in the years to come. It is needed now more than ever. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And never underestimate an 80-year-old.
And I understand as well, you are celebrating, I believe, 53-year anniversary, wedding anniversary as well. So a lot of celebration for Judy and Carl. At this time, I'd like to invite our board chair, Gonzalo Cornejo, back to present the next award. I fought for this, but you know, I had to.
Thank you, Anu. And now I have the great privilege of formally introducing our 2026 EILS champion honoree, Michael Maltby. This award is particularly special, and special for me actually to give it, because Mike interviewed me for the board position that I am now back in 2020. And we've been working very, very closely together since then. Mike has served as EILS board chair for more than 7 years, and the only reason he's no longer a board member is that his tenure ended. Otherwise, he would be probably a perpetual chair. And still remains a partner with us through transitions that allow us to weather the storms together. Mike is a person of high integrity and principle, very personable, and overall a kind person, as I witnessed all these years. And he's very funny, as you will see. In the past year, as with every year in the past, he has taken his frustration and concern about the present situation and channeled it into action. He is the reason that so many of you are here in this room tonight, and the reason that our network of supporters here at EILS continues to grow. As managing partner of Galfanberger LLP, one of our Ray of Light sponsors, and Philadelphia-based trial attorney, Mike advocates daily for justice, representing Spanish-speaking communities in Pennsylvania, although his Spanish is so-so, and in Pennsylvania and New Jersey in personal injury litigation cases. In 2020, he successfully argued Borguis versus No Time Inc. before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, resulting in a unanimous decision expanding protection for injured individuals across the Commonwealth. Good for you. Beyond his legal practice, Michael has demonstrated a deep commitment to EILS, and he continues to support us as member of our advisory council. In recognition of his long-standing commitment to Esperanza Immigration Legal Services and his sustained leadership on behalf of immigrants all these years, I am proud and honored to present you the 2026 EILS Champion Award.
So I'm getting over a cold. We'll see how the voice goes. You may not get those jokes you've been promised tonight. We'll see. Thank you so much, Gonzalo, for that beautiful introduction. And thank you to my awesome board for considering me for this honor. It really means a lot to me. I want to start with some thank yous. I want to thank my family, my friends, and my colleagues at my law firm who came out here to support me, and more importantly, to support EILS. Your presence here makes a huge difference. Shout out to my son Noah, who has his first 2 high school final exams tomorrow, but he's here partying with us, so thank you, Noah. When Gonzalo called me to tell me I was getting this award, the first thing that came into my mind were the words of, I would say, our greatest living philosopher. And of course, I'm referring to Philadelphia Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni famously likes to say, you can't be great without the greatness of others. And those words really actually meant a lot to me in that moment, because in all seriously, that's how I do think about this award. This award is a reflection of the greatness of others. But before I get to that, I'd like to tell a little story about how I ended up on this board in the first place, because there is a message to it that I hope that some people here who aren't involved in the nonprofit world consider. In the summer of 2012, I was about 10 years into my legal career. I had no experience whatsoever in the nonprofit space, had never sat on a board, and I knew nothing about immigration law. And I had a 1-year-old son at home. I was so focused on my law practice that the idea of even joining a nonprofit was the furthest thing from my mind. One afternoon, my colleague Norm Weinstein, who's here tonight, he was at the time a member of Judy's highest, he was a board director on Judy's highest board, and he had had lunch with Mary Clark, who was the founding executive director of EILS. And they had had lunch, and he brought Mary by the office, and Norman said, and I'm pretty sure this is a quote, "Mike, this is Mary. She's with EILS. She has a daughter your son's age. You should join the board and maybe they could get married someday. So we're still waiting to see how things shake out for Noah and Sophia. No? No progress there? All right. We're working on that. But that was a life-changing moment for me because I took Norm's advice and I joined the EILS board as a board observer. Philadelphia has a great board observer program. And so I came to my first meeting that fall. I sat in a boardroom with Reverend Luis Cortez, his brother Danny, a future state senator, a future immigration judge, and amongst a bunch of extraordinary people. And I sat, and they were talking about, this is kind of funny, they were talking about, imagine how tough it's going to be for our immigrant clients if Mitt Romney wins the election. So, can you imagine? Imagine, yeah. So, but, you know, I sat there and I had absolutely nothing to add at that meeting. And I had nothing to add at the next meeting. I thought to myself, I have no business being here. This is going to be a quick observer program and I'm out. But despite my insecurities, something happened. I was inspired. I was inspired by the people I got to sit at the same table with, people who were talented, who were volunteering their time and energy to this tiny little nonprofit that at the time had one employee, maybe 1.5, that was only limited and had a budget that was, you know, minuscule. But we were looking to grow because the need was there. And so eventually I found ways to contribute in any way I could, even telling my friends and family, this is where I'm working, this is what I'm doing, you got to get to know this organization. It made a difference. And the first significant contribution I made to EILS was convincing my partners to host the first ever EILS event in my firm. There were about 12 people there. Judy was one of them, and she was already a friend, but we called it a friend raiser. We had 8 bottles of wine and a small cheese tray from De Bruno's, and somebody gave us a $100 check that night. We've come a long way, I'd say, in that time. Tonight we have a sellout with 160 people, and we're hoping to raise over 6 figures tonight if we can pull it off, but I guess I have something to do with that. So getting back to Coach Sirianni, my entire time at EILS, I've been around people, an all-star Hall of Fame group. And even though my contributions sometimes amount to just running up and down the sidelines, giving awkward high fives, there's still a way to contribute, even if you are not necessarily a true, you know, immigration attorney or a nonprofit expert. I've had the privilege of working, I just want to do a couple shout outs with all 4 executive directors in the history of this organization, Mary Clark, Alexis Decker, Camille Van Cote, and the amazing Anu Thomas. All 4 of these phenomenal women have had the resume, and they could have worked anywhere at the highest paying legal jobs in the city, in the state. They chose to come here, take a nonprofit salary, and do something they truly believed in because they knew that EILS provides one of the most important resources for the immigrant community in North Philadelphia. And how can you not be inspired by that? How can you not want to be a part of that process? So can I get another round of applause for our 4 awesome lady leaders who have built this into this amazing group? So I've had an embarrassment of riches of coworkers and mentors at the board. I got to work with the Reverend Cortez. I've got to work with, like I said, future senators. Just to give you one example of our awesome board, one of our former honorees here tonight, Jaya Ramji-Nogales, is here. I'd just like to shout her out because 2 weeks ago, she submitted a brief to the Supreme Court of the United States to argue on behalf of a Haitian and a Syrian refugee and to try to fight for the advocacy. She is a law professor at Temple, and she is busy. She is world-renowned, and she wanted to dedicate her time to sitting on this board. How could I not get excited about that, right? And a funny story about Jaya, which I hope I'm getting this quote right, but Mary Clark, our executive director at the time, was her student at Temple Law. And she said, I came to join this board because I want to be Mary when I grow up, because she's that awesome. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So you can't be great without the greatness of other, Coach. You're right about that. I am surrounded. This award is a reflection of the awesome people I had a chance to work with and serve around. So I just feel that, you know, this is truly, those words really meant something to me. So why did I tell that story? Why am I giving this quote? Because I think if someone like me, who had no immigration experience, no nonprofit experience, no board experience, can someday get this beautiful honor at the behest of my amazing board, then that means every single person in this room can be a champion of something as well. And without getting too political, we are living in a very troubling period in American history. A lot of us 20 years ago would have never imagined the strain that the things that we grew up believing would always be part of our lives would be under such attack. And the only way we're going to get through this period is through the strength of groups like EILS and some of the other awesome nonprofits that are out there. And several of those are represented here tonight. We have Puentes de Salud, Dr. Ludmir's organization represented tonight. We have HIAS. We have so many great groups like this. And so if I have some good news, if you are feeling down, if you are feeling hopeless about the state of the world, then joining a nonprofit is the best antidepressant. You will feel empowered, you will know that you are doing a good thing, and anyone can do it. Do not wait for Norman Weinstein to arrange a marriage for your firstborn child. Call a nonprofit and join them today. Think about what you're passionate about, because if I can do it, so can all of you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Judy and Mike. For those of you who haven't seen, there's a journaling that you can do to write a note that they can take home with them, and so that this night will last for a long time. We are so inspired by your dedication, your compassion, and your leadership. For each award, there are many more doing their part. Inspired by them, by the immigrants EILS serves, and by passing on that to the next person, we would like you to join us in watching this brief film, Rooted in Resilience, as we cherish and appreciate the ways that each of us can make a difference. Policies that violate immigrant rights have sprung up like weeds. And for families, whether for those who are fleeing violence and persecution, or those who have built their entire lives here, this means facing hurdle after hurdle just to find safety and stability in the United States. Calls for guidance pour in. We work quickly to respond to as many as we can, even as resources are stretched thin. But that is not the whole story. Because in the midst of uncertainty, something else is taking root. It lives in the mother who sits in our offices, determined to protect her children's future. It lives in the father who knows that safety and dignity should be rights, not privileges. It lives in our immigrant families who strengthen the Philadelphia communities they now call home. All carry hope. Despite the winds of change that threaten to destroy it, this hope will not fall. Because its roots run deep, deep in community, deep in service, deep in love. At Esperanza Immigration Legal Services, we see these roots of resilience grow every day. We see staff adapting in real time to rapidly changing and unjust policies, fighting to protect as many families as possible, volunteers giving their evenings and weekends to support aspiring new citizens, board members who refuse to look away, donors who rise to meet the need to ensure our work remains strong. And we see you. You are what keeps hope alive when everything else feels uncertain. Because when you fund legal representation, you are funding safety, stability, a unified family, a pathway to self-determination. And you are funding hope. Hope that endures. Hope that grows. Hope that takes root. Together, we are rooted in resilience. And for those of you who are wondering if we're going to be treated by Mike this year, well, I don't want to disappoint. Mike, welcome back.
All right, I'm back. So How many of you guys have been here before? Quick, raise your hands. All right, so you all know what's about to happen. So every year, when I was board chair and we did our first one of these in 2022 at Live, we decided that we were going to try to raise $5,000, a pretty modest amount, to doing a text to give to try to support our organization. It was our first fundraiser as opposed to a friend raiser or just a casual event. And Christine Nieves, who I want to give a shout out to, like me, she's battling a cold, but she still put together an amazing program tonight. Christine gave me she basically said, work the room until we've raised the money. And the crowd was about half as big. It was brand new. We had no idea how the night was going to go. But now that you've heard 4 different people now, I think, tell you that this was coming, I'm not going to, change any suspense. So tonight we are going to do our text to give, but I have some exciting news about that. We have 2 amazing donors who are willing to match the first combined $10,000 in gifts that we can raise tonight. So I'd really like to encourage us. There we go. Don't open the champagne yet. But maybe we'll pop some later. But I want to encourage everybody to take out your phones now and dial 833, or not dial, text 833. No one will answer. 833-201-1575 to support Esperanza. Now, we have $10,000 in matches, and it may be the cold medicine talking, but as much as I want to raise $20,000 tonight, that number feels awkward to me. I like numbers that are divisible by 5, so I'd really love to see us get to $25,000. So let's see if we can do $15,000. So while you are all looking at your phones, I was given by Christine, as she gives me every year, a bunch of beautiful stories about our clients and some quotes that are really inspirational. They're in this folder. They're ready to go. I've tried this before. These are great. They are going to distract you. You may not even be able to text. I also brought some terrible jokes, and with the idea being that if I tell some really bad jokes, you guys will donate so much money so fast that I'll get off the stage a lot faster. So what do you guys want to hear, the quotes or the jokes? Jokes. All right. Okay. I know. Okay. So I don't write these jokes. I go on the internet and look for the worst possible jokes. And so these are really bad. Like, I'm going to give you an example of one of the first ones. What do you call a paper airplane that will not fly? We got 160 people in this room. No one knows that joke? Stationary. This is the best joke. This is the best one. They are all downhill from here. Has anyone donated? All right, we have a long way to go. Okay, I got some. Well, there's a lot of kids here tonight. I have some really kid-based jokes, so this one's for you guys. All right. What do you call a fake noodle? Someone knows this one? Call it out. Go ahead. Nope. You call it out. Impasta. There you go. That was worth $102. Thank you, Dara. All right. And then I got another food-related kid joke. Come on, one of you guys knows this. Why did the cookie go to the doctor? You're a child. It was feeling crummy. Thank you to my 15-year-old son. All right, so I told you these are bad. I can switch over to the quotes at any time. But before I do that, I did write a joke this year, actually. This is my first one. I've done this 5 times, never written a joke. I'm willing to throw my hat in the ring. It's a little political. Are you guys up for it? Yeah. All right, I need a prop. It's a prop joke. When I got this award, this was going to be part of my speech, but I knew I'd be following Judy. I wanted to keep it somewhat solemn-ish. It didn't quite work out. But anyway, I'm supposed to get this award. I'm supposed to look at it and say, You know, I was the board chair when we came up with the EILS Champion Award. So it's a little awkward for me to win an award that I kind of came up with. I guess this is what it feels like to win the FIFA Peace Prize. If you get it, you get it. All right, how are we doing here? Can we see the numbers? Because I'm running out of joke. All right. All right, we're getting there. I understand that we do have a guest joker tonight. Is the guest joker available? According to her grandfather, hey, there she is. All right, can we get a round of applause for our guest joker? All right. Is this one? Do you want this? Is this one?
There we go. Yeah, you can get the little one.
Yeah, all right, we'll give you this one. All right, are you ready? Now, look, this joke better be worth $5,000, and I'm going to start calling people out. Ready?
What do you call a criminal landing a plane?
Criminal? Oh, God. Where is this going?
Anybody? What? You want to say it again?
What do you call a criminal landing a plane?
What is it?
All right, you're up.
Condescending?
Ooh. That's a winner. All right. Woo. All right, we are a third of the way there, and I am already sweating, so you guys are making me work here. All right, I got some bird jokes. Let's do some bird jokes. This is topical. What do you call a bird with a bad cough? Nobody? Nobody? Oh, I'm sweating here. A flamingo. Flamingo. Whoa, that was a valuable one. Thank you, Joe Traub. You're getting me off the stage. All right. What does the well-educated owl say? Whom. All right, we're almost there. Actually, this is my favorite bird joke. How come chickens only make one type of sound? How come chickens only make one type of sound? They have trouble thinking outside the box. I'll let that one sink in for a while. Yeah. How we doing? All right, we're getting there. I have more. Well, I'm going to get us to that 15,000. Christine said, I don't care how much you sweat up there. All right, these are slightly more grown up. I don't know if the kids can hear all of these, but I'm going to give it a shot. Why do you never know when a psychiatrist is using the bathroom? Anyone ever hear this one? This one made me laugh when I found it. Because the P is silent. All right, we're almost there. Here, Anu. This one's executive director approved. Kids, cover yours. Why do you never get into a fight with a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Because you'll get Jurassic kicked. Now, oh, good, that's good. Don't shake your head. How close are we? All right, I'm running low. I have a whole hard drive full of these. It has 100 gigabytes. All right. Since I'm looking forward to the drink I'm going to have when we hit $15,000, here's a drinking-related joke. Why does it take me 5 minutes to walk to the bar, but then 30 minutes to walk back? All right. I don't know, but the difference is staggering. Bingo. Come on, please. I am literally down to like my last joke here. All right, what do you call, I hope you get this because this joke stinks, all right? What do you call a YouTube channel that's dedicated just to fungus and algae? Like and subscribe. Got it? See, some people know lichen. Now, lichen is an algae fungus, and you've never heard of it, but you're going to be watching Planet Earth someday, and you're going to hear David Attenborough talking about lichen, and you're going to laugh your butt off. Trust me, you're going to get that joke. It's going to be really funny. All right, guys, I need $1,809, and I am off the stage because I'm going into 2024's jokes right now. And all right, here's one. Why does every boat in the Swedish Navy have a barcode on it? You know this? You know it? Oh, I would love it. If you know this one, you can come up and tell the answer. All right, why does every boat in the Swedish Navy have a barcode on it? Because when the boats come into port, they like to Scandinavian. Hurry up. They get worse. They get worse. This is the longest I've ever been up here. I know. This is me getting greedy. All right. You got one? What's that? All right. This is, we may have to wrap it up. I see a lot of people looking at their phones, so we can't win them all, but we met our match at $20,000. So we made $23,242. I've just about run out of jokes. I'm going to look for one more. But, oh man, I don't know. Thank God. My wife wants to stop the embarrassment. Thank you. I thank you so much. I am going, come on, oh my God. Please, I got one more. Hold on. All right, one more for you. Hey! Thank God. I'm so sweaty. No. Oh, you guys want to hear more? I don't know if I did this one before. Why can't you use beef stew as a password for your email? Why can't you use beef stew as a password for your email? It's not stroganoff. There you go. Oh, okay. All right, thank you, everybody. You guys are awesome. So our MC had to leave early, and we thank her so much for coming because she got such short notice. And since you haven't gotten enough Mike Malvey for one night, I want to thank you all for coming. That's the end of our program. Thank you all. You're amazing. And grab dessert on the way out and chai. And have a good night, everybody. Be safe. Thank you.